You use Uber? My kid is on the, my Uber car's here. What? It's huge here in New York, but there is a huge battle, too. The latest battle over Uber is heating up in the Big Apple as one major taxi financier finally launches a major lawsuit. Charlie Gasparino has the exclusive detail.
We should say this is the first official step in Melrose Credit Union. That's one of the biggest financiers of taxi medallions. To drive a taxi in New York, to pick up someone on the street, you need a medallion, okay? Sometimes these medallion owners lend their cars to somebody else, other people, but that's what you need, a medallion to buy it, to pick up people on the street. It's an exclusive right. It costs...
Is it literally a medallion?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little...
And they cost... $1 million?
$1 million. It's gone down since Uber, and that's why the established taxi industry and New York City taxi. I mean, this is a big story because New York City is the home of the taxi. I mean, it's an iconic image in New York of the taxi. Probably has more taxis here than any other city in the country. Now the taxi industry is fighting back, and fighting back fairly viciously. Here's what we know: Melrose Financial, 3 other banks that finance these medallions, who are worried about getting repaid on their when they lend money to people who bought these medallions, have filed an injunction in New York State court basically saying that New York City and New York State is violating the law. They are not preventing Uber from picking up what is the functional equivalent of a street hail. What they're saying is it doesn't matter if you do it on your app or not.
Right.
When you say
lift your arm,
when you say pick me up in 3 minutes or pick me up now, I'm on the corner of 59th and 2nd or whatever, that's the equivalent of lifting your arm and standing in the street.
It's not.
That's what they're saying. And we should point out this. Let me just get through this. The lawsuit demands that New York City and New York States follow the New York City taxi laws. That's enforced by the TLC, the Taxi and Limousine Commission. The bank says that that these street hails are essentially prohibited under law. And here's the interesting thing. They say this is the sort of first step to a multi-billion dollar, I spoke with the bank spokesman, multi-billion dollar takings claim that the city is, they'll sue the city, they'll sue the state, and they'll say, you have allowed us to be ripped off by not enforcing the law, multi-billion dollars, and we want that money. We should point out that the TLC, the Taxi and Limousine Commission of New York City, says we will review the papers, and when we get them, so they have no comment. We put calls into New York State. Eric Schneiderman, essentially the New York State Attorney General, is named in the lawsuit because he's the chief legal officer of New York State. We reached out to Uber. Uber has no immediate comment, but I would say this. About the suit, and it's a fascinating reading. I haven't read the whole thing. I skimmed it just so you know, because we just got it. If you look at page 100 of the lawsuit, I believe.
You skimmed
No. Paragraph. I was directed.
Paragraph.
I was directed to this, just so you don't think I'm that fast to read, because I'm actually not. I'm a bit dyslexic. It essentially says in that paragraph that New York City wants to argue that using an app in a different case is the functional equivalent of a street hail. That New York City itself, in defending itself...
Well, I don't know what they're drinking, but that's not
but New York City, so what they're saying is New York City has already admitted that basically the app, the notion of calling a cab on an app, is the functional equivalent of a street hail. They said that they cite the Corporation Counsel of New York City. That's a lawyer for New York City, making that claim. So I'm telling you, I think the lawsuit has legs. I can't tell you who's going to win. I can tell you that the battle, as Uber's valuation is skyrocketing, right? Yeah. $50 billion now. It was an investor on Anthony Scaramucci's Wall Street Week. He was being interviewed by Anthony and our friend Gary Kaminsky, who basically said, listen, Mike Novogratz said this, listen, they increased their valuation by $15 billion in 1 week. Right. This company is growing fast, and it is going to face some degree of legal pressure. I can't tell you who's going to be successful, but I think I don't know. I mean, no offense, but using Uber is not quite like calling a limo company in 3 hours.
It is not quite like calling.
It's mostly like...
And when they show up, they're polite and nice, and they show up
but it's
on
mostly,
time.
It's mostly like hailing a cab. And the bottom line is this. New York City's taxi industry is highly regulated, and it costs money to get that.
Well, an apple is like a nectarine. A peach is like a nectarine, but they're not the same. Charlie, thank you.
But, that's a good point. Maybe the judge will say that, but we'll see. We'll cover it.
Okay.
Fair and balanced.
Hope I get
and by the way, tomorrow, Dick Fold speaking for the first time ever.
From Lehman Brothers.
From the first time since 2008.
Where?
In Midtown Manhattan at some conference. And, here's the thing. We're going to have a major story about Fold coming out in the morning about what he's been doing since leaving Lehman. It's going to be very controversial.
Charlie, thank you.
Okay.
Everybody stay tuned for that. It'll be right here.
Yes,
thank
absolutely.
you.